Our studies at the Jornada Basin are important for management of drylands, both in the southwestern US and globally, and how grazing practices and climate change will impact our ability to use and manage these ecosystems.
Drylands cover around 40% of the Earth's land surface, and because of climate change, they're growing. Here at the Jornada Basin Long-Term Ecological Research Site, we study these arid lands to understand how they function and find answers to the critical questions that determine their future. Located near Las Cruces, New Mexico, the Jornada Basin is an ecologically diverse landscape at the northern boundary of the Chihuahuan Desert, which extends south into Mexico. These are the ancestral lands of the indigenous Pueblo, Apache, and other unrecognized peoples who we acknowledge as the traditional and continuing custodians of these lands. Over 100 years ago, following European settlement and the introduction of large-scale cattle and sheep ranching, botanist Elmer Wooten and other local ranchers began to realize that overgrazing, in combination with drought, was reducing native grass cover and causing long-living shrubs to spread across the landscape. The degradation of these grasslands reduced productivity and the availability of forage for livestock, while also exposing soils to wind and water erosion. It also became increasingly clear that, while overgrazing and drought had rapidly deteriorated the grasslands, the pathway back to healthy grasslands would be much more difficult to find. Similar problems were being recognized in arid and semi-arid drylands worldwide.
To find solutions to these problems, long-term experimental ranches were established by the USDA and the New Mexico College of Agriculture, dedicated to long-term research in this area that we now call the Jornada Basin. These ranches served as both desert and grassland research sites in the early 1970s during the International Biological Program.
Finally, in 1982, the National Science Foundation provided funding for the Jornada Basin Long-Term Ecological Research Site to study both the causes and consequences of grassland degradation and shrub encroachment. With hundreds of datasets collected by the USDA, New Mexico State, and our other partners going back over 100 years, the Jornada is one of the longest-running ecological research sites in the world. Today, the Jornada LTER collects long-term data on vegetation growth and diversity, rainfall and weather variability, carbon and water flux from the land surface to the atmosphere, wind and water erosion processes, and the seasonal and interannual variability in herbivore and carnivore populations. We also conduct experiments to understand how range management, climate change, and rainfall variability all interact to control plant populations and what we refer to as state changes between grassland and shrubland. Jornada Basin LTER studies encompass all aspects and scales of Chihuahuan desert ecosystems, communities, and populations, from soils and their microbes to plants and animals, to entire landscapes. The data and infrastructure of the Jornada LTER and its partners have attracted scores of additional research studies involving scientists and students from across the US and the world. Jornada science not only advances our basic understanding of dryland ecosystems, but also contributes to improved management of drylands across the southwestern USA and world. Additionally, we serve our community and build public understanding of dryland ecosystems by assisting in the creation of outdoor recreation spaces, inclusive science education programs in schools, and research opportunities for students at all levels. Insights from our long-term research have been used locally, regionally, and globally to inform the management and policy that sustains the ecosystem services provided by drylands in a changing world. And ultimately, we are a crucial part of a larger system of long-term ecological research sites across the United States and beyond that informs our understanding of ecosystems and ecosystem management on a global scale. We know the world is changing, and long-term data can tell us how it's changing and give us insight into why.